probably good if I hit record too. That would be.
Don't pull a Greg.
Everybody has done that once in our
Yeah.
podcast of not recording, or like the worst when you catch yourself like 15 minutes in, you're like, oh, everyone else is recording but me, but at least you're a little bit of it. But
Mhm.
hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Batman You Complete Me, episode 2. I am Travis Snell. I am once again joined by my co-host, the Bat Daddy 52, Greg. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. I was gonna say I know I get around a lot of podcasts, but cohort that's getting that's getting a little deep there.
Did you what I said co-host? What did you thought I said?
It sounded like you almost slipped and said cohort
Yeah,
the first
cohort.
time.
Yeah,
That's what it sounded like.
that's a whole different business I would have been in then. But
Right.
yeah, so there's tons of stuff happening right now. What is happening on my computer? As I do this, I just got a Game of Thrones ad for some reason. I don't know where that oh, it's my YouTube. Look at that. And it's not Game of Thrones, it's actually a ripoff. It's not, but it's like a music that's similar. So
Yeah.
it's all gone now. But it scared the hell out of me. I didn't know what was happening. Yeah, so we got lots of stuff going on in this episode, but lots of stuff in general, because this is dropping the Monday before Fandom. I think you're like me. We're both really excited for this. Like, we're gonna talk about a little bit today. But what are you feeling like? Because when this drops, we will be 5 days away. How are you feeling?
About Fandom?
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. It's right now. By this time next week, we'll be doing probably one of our last casts on Fandom, which is going to be awesome. So I'm sure you talk to me a week from now at this time, I'll probably be a little bit worn out. It'll be because I've got to work that day too.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm looking really forward to it. I just want to see some of the stuff that's on there. It's like I said, there's certain things I could live without seeing. There's a couple things, the panels that are coming up that I absolutely want to have to see this right here. And if I at least get to see these 3 or 4 things, I'll be okay.
Yeah, well, definitely check out DC Alliance on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network, because I know you guys are probably going to preview that. I haven't even asked you, so I'm just rushing you on the cast. But if I'm free, I want to join for that, because I definitely want to talk about some preview stuff and everything. But either way, whether it's you two or anybody else, you guys are going to be previewing that and talking about that, because like Greg just mentioned, we are doing a big crossover. Sent myself, Kirklin, and Taylor, and then plus you, Travis, and Chris. We're going to be there for the majority of it, and then we're going to have a bunch of other people jump in, like Katie and hopefully Nathan and Sarah and Lisa from I Love That Movie. So we got a good roster. We got like over 10 people, and it's good, because it's like, because Katie was like, oh, should I be on the Snyder Cut thing, because like, they all love Snyder Cut, and I was like, hey, you got me. Like, I will be the opposing forces if we have to be. But I'm that's what I love about this fandom, is like, I'm excited for everything. Like even the Snyder Cut, which I'm excited to see in general, just because I want to see like this film and the hype for it. But just everything, it's just that schedule. Seeing it, one, it is just like super daunting looking at everything they got going on. But the big stuff is just like everything. We're in comics and games, and I hope this is a hit, because I want them to do this every year. Obviously, it might suck for Comic-Con, because that might kind of kill it, but it seems like Comic-Con might already be out the door. But I hope nothing but the best. So yeah, like I mentioned, we have that going on in Geek First Land. We got the Nolan retros; those are gonna be finishing off. Our Flash watch alongs dropping this week. We should be getting Tenet. Our Canadian theaters tell us we're getting Tenet, so there'll be a review of that. And then September 12th, it's a big thing. September 12th, it's me versus Taylor in our second backyard wrestling match. Greg, I know you don't want to hurt any feelings, but who you got in that? It's me and Taylor. Taylor won last time, but he had outside interference and he used a weapon. This time, outside interference is allowed and weapons are allowed. So he he says he doesn't cheat, but I think he cheated last time. But this is the rematch. Who do you got in this?
To be honest, man, I don't know, because watching a lot of wrestling, the first time he beat you with the, like you said, the outside interference and the now this stuff's legal and the weapons, but usually once the stuff's probably usually sounds like he's kind of playing the heel of this story. Usually he'll figures out a way, to make it work. You got to lose at least 2 or 3 times before the champion comes out victorious. At the end, so the good guy comes out victorious. So.
Well, he does have a little bit of advantage, because I chose the rules and whatnot, but he got to choose the referee, and the referee, how we do the gauntlet, we do some like gaming stuff and whatnot. The referee is his current team partner, so there's some fraudulence going on right there. But so that's September 12th. It's not gonna be lots of fun, because I'm just gonna pound this guy to the ground just like Batman. This guy's gonna be like Joker with broken teeth and whatnot. But so today, as we've talked about, this is a love letter to Batman. We're gonna be tackling every month a different topic. Next month we can preview is the big one. This is the one me and Greg. There's two things we've probably talked about a lot is Green Lantern versus Doctor Strange. You can check that on the Patreon, the Geek Ultimate Alliance. And then the Batman, shall he kill or shall he not kill? That's going to be next month's topic. That one I got to get ready because I'm going to watch BVS. I'm going to watch all these things. We're going to talk about the differences of kills. We're going to talk about our opinions on that. So yeah, that's going to be an exciting one because I know I haven't finished Stargirl, but I even saw you're getting into some people about Stargirl and some potential killing. Don't tell me any specifics, but I saw there was some rumblings going on between you and some fans of DCA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
very much so. I'm the kind of guy that just putting a little hint of it out there. I don't mind a superhero killing if it's the right thing to do. Sometimes you got to hit the kill shot, and most people are like that with most characters, except for certain ones. Like if you see Spider-Man kill, or if you see Batman kill, then everybody loses their mind and goes crazy. But Captain America can throw somebody off of a helicarrier, and any Wonder Woman can choke somebody and strangle them to death. And nothing, but then Batman or Spider-Man or somebody like that kills, and everybody goes nuts, like it's the breaking the whole moral code. But that's the argument we'll get to later.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a good time. That'll be after Fandom. But yeah, we want to talk about Robert Pattinson's Batman because obviously there's gonna be a lot of stuff coming out. Well, hopefully a lot of stuff coming out this weekend. So just kind of some preemptive, and most of the stuff I did because I went back and forth if we did it before or after. Most of the stuff we're gonna be covering this weekend coming out with Pattinson. So that's I thought a good kind of teaser. But I wanted to cover two things before we have two questions. One from Travis Hines, your host, but also one from Clay Williams. He's a fan of GV. He's been a patron for a while, and he said, "Hey Travis, so I was listening to your Batman podcast, and as someone 100% Batman fan, but nearly as not big as you, I want your guys' opinion on something. I think what I want from BBS was that apocalyptic scene, the one where Batman is in the trench coat and stuff. Anyways, I'm telling my buddy, and he said that's what the Snyder Cut is going to be. Now, I know he's wrong, and that's not true, but do you think there's any chances to see anything like that in the future? Maybe partially in the Snyder Cut, it's something different that I'd really like to see. So you, me, and Travis have talked about this a lot, where I feel like there's multiple versions and multiple people of what they think the Snyder Cut is. And I think DC Fandom will be good for that because Justice Con happened, but I think Fandom's going to have the most eyes. And I think they'll finally get to know it's what he shot before before Joss Whedon took over. It's not that 5 film arc, which I think some people kind of think about. But I guess this is a question like you guys have talked about on DCA, so you might be repeating yourself. But as far as maybe in the future getting more Batman like this or seeing more, I think we could see some snippets of it more in that's what excites me about Justice League. There's so much, there's all those rumors like he has 4.5 hours filmed and it's like a series, right? So there's definitely going to be some stuff. But what do you think about just, I guess that scene in particular Clay was talking about? And two, for Geekverse fans that haven't heard your opinions on it, just the thought of something potentially future, just Snyder Cut or Snyderverse related.
Okay. Well, to the question, no, you're right. Your friend is wrong. That's not what the Snyder Cut Justice League is going to be. I do think because that was a scene that he filmed, it will be in the final cut of Snyder Cut, and you may get an extended version of that. Like there may be something cut off. I'm not really sure. You may just get what you saw, but that will definitely be in the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League, which we'll know the name of next week, so we can actually start calling it by its name.
Yeah, I forgot about. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy. I hope everyone wants Zack Snyder's Justice League. It doesn't matter to me, but I think that's the I don't know what else you would call it, to be honest. Like,
right, I think that's the way to go too.
Yeah,
it'll be Justice League something if it's not, Justice League Conflict War or something like that if it's not. But yeah, and as far as them continuing that and going into something else, I think that even if they do continue a Snyderverse version on the HBO Max, I don't think it's going to be continue this storyline, because this storyline has too many characters that are currently involved in the DCEU right now. I think that it'll go different directions of maybe you see some Suicide Squad, like maybe you see a Jared Leto Joker and you see some stuff with him. You see a Catwoman series. You get to see a Batman, Ben Affleck HBO series with Deathstroke, where it's not necessarily following the same storyline as they were going with Zack Snyder's Justice League, but it's the same Batman in the same universe, just on the small screen. But I don't think that we'll see any more of that, because I think that particular scene and that story point is tied directly to the arc of Snyder's vision. So I think that's kind of a standalone thing. It's not really its own comic or its own story in itself.
Yeah, it's funny. A few weeks ago, there was this big debate, which I don't even understand why. And I'm with you as far as there's this kind of Mark Hughes. He's a reporter, and he's of higher note. And he put out that there's been maybe rumblings of continuing the Snyderverse as far as like animated and whatnot. And some people are like, well, that shouldn't be the thing. For me, it's just that as long as I think anything happens, that's good. Me and Chris talked about some Marvel Alliance a few weeks ago. I would love the same way Batman Returns ends with Catwoman looking at the bat signal. We never knew the rest of that story. I would love them to do a graphic novel or an anime movie to be like, this is Tim, like obviously there might be Keaton come back, but let's say that wasn't happening. I'd love if they did an animated movie or a graphic novel of, oh, this is set in Burns' universe. I've always said the same thing about. I'm surprised. I've always said that I wanted to see the Zack Snyder cut, but I didn't think it would happen just because of the amount of money. And AT&T is they're spending that money, like good on them. But I always thought we were going to get it in the graphic novel form, to be honest. I always thought that's the way we're going to go. And maybe we even get that one day with his 5-part series. Maybe he does, because he said in that Justice Con, and he talked about in the book, that he's calling this an Elseworld. So right there, that opens up it's a what if tale, right? It's just like that Marvel series come out, What If. It's like, well, that was Joss Whedon's Justice League, but this is like, yeah, it's Zack Snyder's, but in like fans, mainstream fans, this can just be worked as like, oh, this is a what if tale. This is like, what if the Justice League would have went right instead of left, you know? So I think Greg's right as far as I don't think you're going to see much more of that particular scene other than like him. Like I get, and I like, we talked about this last time, so I give him a pass because it's Apocalypse. Other than him like gun toting, I really love that scene. I love like the feeling of it. It's just very dark and dreary, and I would have loved to see more of that. And that 5-part series, like there's some things I like about it, some things I don't, but I would like to see it because of scale. So I agree with Greg. I don't think we'll see too much. Maybe some more hinting. Who knows? But as far as the future, you could. Who knows? Maybe they do announce that one day that they can't do the Justice League Zack Snyder version as far as like the 4th part and the 5th part in live action. But I'm sure I've always said the same thing with Ben Affleck. I feel like if they said we're going to turn your script into an animated movie, I don't know why he wouldn't do it. Like unless he was really like, that's my script. But if he says, hey, I have no intention of playing Batman ever again, I'm over it. And they say, well, what about an animated movie? All it takes is, couple weeks, even a couple days, if it's quick enough, and it's done. Most of the hard work, and I don't think he would phone it. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's a lesser commitment than you're going to be on the set for 4 to 6 months versus maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So I do think that's a route. I'm down for live. I'm down for anything. I've said that's my biggest complaint about Marvel buying Fox is that I love the MCU and I love the connected universe, but I do love the what ifs, like a Logan, like a Joker. Or Spider-Verse, when we can just go off and this is a solo movie, has nothing to do with anything else. It's just this movie. And that's what DC has that advantage right now. And they're setting up the multiverse. I think Marvel will eventually look at that and see if it's successful or not. And kind of, obviously who knows, they might have that plan with Doctor Strange, but we don't know that yet. So I think multiverse will be good because I think eventually some people will get tired of, I don't want to fall all these movies again. And, Joker, I always say it's weird, but it's a rated R movie about mental health and it's $1 billion film, right? So that proved right there that these one-offs can work. You don't need to have 6 movies setting up, this and that and that. Like, I think even these animated films could be good. So, and then Travis Hines, he's your DC cohort. He asked, your cohort, by the way, not cohort. I'm not going to call Travis a cohort. He may be a whore because he stole my name, but that's about it. But he said, are you concerned at all? And I guess we can make this our first question about Pattison or Battison, because you guys call him R-Bats, but in Geekverse we call him Battison. So that's so there we go. It shows the two sides of the coin. But he said, are you concerned at all about the way Pattison's Batman will fight? I love Nolan movies, but the fight scenes are okay at best. The bar was raised with Batman fight scenes in BVS Warehouse. Greg, I'll let you start. What do you think? What are you expecting? Obviously, we've only seen officially that teaser passing, right? All the rest of the stuff has been set footage. None of them have been fighting scenes. So it's really just a guess. But what are you thinking about this?
It's difficult to say whether or not it's going to be a good fighting scene or not. I think that it will be, just because Matt Reeves is a great director, and I don't think he's going to put any kind of crap out there. And Robert Pattinson's a great actor. I don't think he's going to put crap out there either, even though he probably won't be the one doing the actual fighting or stunts. If you really go back and look at it, every Batman fight scene, with the exception of maybe Affleck's, and there are some with Nolan's that are pretty slow.
Yeah.
Most of them. Most of Nolan's were slow. Most of anything from Tim Burton series was slow. George Clooney, Val Kilmer, they had slow fight scenes. And I imagine it's because it's a guy in a rubber suit at that point in time doing that. And it's difficult for somebody to adjust to that, which is why I think the cloth suit worked out so much better. In real life, it would too. But I don't think that we can set everything to that standard of Batman with the warehouse scene. Not to mention, too, that it was just the one warehouse scene. Like, he did have the scene with Superman where he fought, but I can point out some scenes with Superman where he fought where it was kind of slow. So it's not every scene that he was in was good. The warehouse scene was good. And there's even a problem I have with the warehouse scene is I don't get when he grapples the big, what is it? The
that box
behind him.
Yeah, the crate. Yeah.
And then slings it over his head and throws him. that crate's got to weigh 300 pounds. Like for you to be able to pick it up
he
on
was
a
lifting
string
that
on the
tire,
end like
man.
that,
You know,
like and throw it. That's the only problem I have with that fight, because I love, like, that's my favorite movie. I love that movie. That's the only problem I have with that fight. But other than that, the action is amazing in that. I wouldn't set everything to that bar though, because even in a fight, even in a movie with good fight scenes, they may still not reach that level. You know? But I have no reason to believe that there's not going to be good fighting. I mean, I don't think it's going to be as slow as the first Bane and Batman fight, or the second Bane Batman fight. So
yeah, it's hard to expect because, like I said, we joke and whatnot, and we'll talk about the next month of some potential lives taken in that warehouse scene. But if I take that out of it and just look at it as an action scene in Batman, it is Batman at his finest as far as action goes. It's just the choreography, everything they do, just little stuff like when that guy goes to shoot him in the head and the bolt bounce off because his armor plates. Like, it's very well thought out. And that's, I always say, the best thing about Zack Snyder is he's a great action director. And as far as visuals and setting locations and shots and scenery, he knocks out of the park every time. So it's always like when an action scene comes up, I never not trust him, whether it's 300, whether it's Watchmen. Like, Watchmen didn't even have that many fight scenes, and he kind of added some kind of stylized stuff in there. So the only reason I'm going to say expect more like Nolan's is just because everything they've said about this is they keep harping on it's more of a noir detective one, right? And I get it that he may have situations where he has to fight. That was one of the rumors a while back ago that WB did go to Matt Reeves and said, hey, could you add a little bit more action? But people that have seen the script have compared it to like a Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, sure, may have a few scuffles, but he's not known for fighting, right? I think Batman will, of course, fight in this movie because it's a Batman movie, and I think that's kind of what studios go and like, hey, you have to have a little bit of like that. But again, as well, we've heard that it might be steering more towards the Joker style. And Joker, there's action scenes, but there's not like, I wouldn't call there's any scenes like comparable to any other comic book movies in Marvel and DC as far as like a fist fight, stuff like that. Like, the biggest thing is he runs away from the cops in a train, he gets hit by a car, and that's like, it's an action scene, but it's really like, I guess. So I'll expect fights, but I think you should go in expecting around Nolan, maybe a little bit better, because Nolan had a style I talked about last week where I liked the style because he was trying to make it as realistic as possible. Did it shoot well on film, and does he shoot well? Not necessarily. I love the first Bane Batman fight scene in the sewers because of just the no music, how intense it is. So that one I always say, I think he did a great job with that, because he always said going into Dark Knight Rises he chose Bane because he wanted a physical threat for Batman. So that wasn't his focus in the first two. So with the third one, I really thought that, like I said, the second one, like you said, it's not as good as the first, but I thought, okay, he made an effort. I expect somewhere, maybe, Travis, I would say like better than Nolan's, because I look at Planet of the Apes and he directs action, but I don't think I'm expecting Zack Snyder level. And I don't know if that's what he's in. Like, it feels like every director has. Nolan's to me was always like, okay, I want to make Batman about the symbol. Burton's was about, okay, this is a messed up universe, I want to do that. I think Zack Snyder's was I want to show the intimidating, fearful Batman. And so far, Matt Reeves, in every interview he gives, he's like, I'm really about the detective side. So I think every person that likes Batman gleams onto one thing. And I think for him, it is that when Batman's in the cave, when he's looking through files, when he's getting thumbprints and stuff like that. So I think it'll be more based around that. And maybe if we get a scene that's close to warehouse scene, that'd be great. But I'm definitely not expecting it. At least even in the first movie too. I know BVS was his first movie, but it just feels it is a sequel and it was set in a universe. This is just, the Riddler might just be a creepy serial killer dude. We don't know. There might not be much fighting there because he's just a weak guy, So yeah. So let's. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think there's reasoning for Nolan's, the way he did his fight scenes, the way Zack Snyder did his, and the way you're going to see Reeves, because I think that after the first 4 Batman movies, the Batman franchise was kind of a joke. The first 2 were great. After 3 and 4, it was kind of a joke, and people were kind of looking at it very, very jokey. And I think that everybody that's coming after that's wanted to have their own niche, their own thing. Like, Nolan wanted to be like, okay, I was the first one that did a realistic Batman on screen, and Zack Snyder's the first one who did like a brooding, brutal Batman on screen, And I think maybe you look at Reeves, maybe he's going to be the first detective Batman on screen. Like, they got to have their thing that they want people to remember. And there's not only so many things you can do with Batman differently. So,
well, yeah, and that's what, like, with this conversation about this movie, that stands out, because I remember when we got the first look at the Batman, and we can talk about past and second, but Jessica on our podcast was like I'm just kind of, and we've heard this many times, you and me, never think it because you and me are Batman to the core. But there's been people that go like another Batman solo movie, and that's where I think for someone like her and other people that are fans of this stuff, but even then she was like, I'm enjoying like Shazam, I'm enjoying Aquaman, like I'm liking to see new people. I don't know if I need to see another Batman. You need to make it different, and you need to. That's why we don't know if Robin's in this, but I still feel like there's a director out there that one day, let's say Robin's on this, that will be their thing of like, I want to tell the story of him taking on this orphan and telling, the father son, big brother relationship. And like I said, I don't know, maybe Reeves will tackle that, but if he does, and you're exactly right, that he wants to do something that is his niche, but at the same time, it's something we have seen it. That's why I do hate when people say we've never seen it. We saw Affleck's, we saw Bale's, we even if Tim Burton's Batman is just looking through newspapers, it's like technically he's doing detective work, right? It's very small, it's not the main thing, but they always have that element. But if he wants that to be his main thing, that could be the way where it's like, the same way Joker to me was like, oh, it's not just about a villain. They took a slant. Some people like it. Some people didn't. Like, this is about mental health and how that would happen to create the Joker. I think this would be that same way of hopefully you get people that like detective stuff or murder mysteries and they go, this is, Seven or Gone Girl, but with Batman, and that's what I think they're going to try to go for. Because there are tons of people that like, we even seen that this week with the DC layoffs that like they canceled a lot of books, but none of those books were Batman books. And everyone was like, oh, people, you just love your stories of Batman beating up the Joker. And it's like, one, I do. I'm a sucker. Those are like, I buy other comics, but it's like, I'm always a sucker for Batman, but it is just because he's an interesting character. And I always feel there's a new creator that gives a new spin on it. So no, I think that's a good point. And I think that will hopefully differentiate it from Snyder's or Nolan's. It's not just another, okay, it's just Batman. It's very similar to Bond, right? When you get a new Bond, you have to make it somewhat different. You look at Pierce Brosnan, that's the same thing we had going on with that. That was becoming jokey and really comic booky in a way. And then when Craig came in, they were like, okay, we're going to take Daniel Craig and we're going to make it as realistic as possible. We're going to make it gritty. We're going to make it real. And it's paid off so far. And then the next Bond, they'll have to do something else, so. Yeah. So I want to start with, obviously you've talked about this on Super Civil, but there's, like I said, some new people. So what are your thoughts on Pattinson as Batman? We can just start there. I don't think you have too much experience with him, but what are your thoughts? Because obviously that was every time he cast a Batman, it's controversial. So there's been like a camp, but I definitely feel it's kind of gone. I feel like because the Snyder Cut is happening, I feel like fans right now do feel like there's kind of something for everybody. So I feel like that's definitely quieted down. But where are you on that now? After, I guess, he's probably been casted for like a year or something now.
Probably pretty close to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Pattinson, I wasn't the guy I expected. At first, I didn't necessarily like it, but I just thought about it the more and more I thought about it. I was like, well, I don't have any reason not to like it. He's a great actor. So there's no reason why he can't portray this role well. And he's going for a young Bruce Wayne, even though Pattinson's like 34, 30, I think he's my age, like 34, 35. So he's not young, not old by any means, but he's definitely
It could have been you. You were that close.
Exactly. I tried out. Tried out. Except my jawline wasn't as good as Pattinson. So
they said you had to shave the beard, and you said, no, I can't do it.
Not going to happen. That's right. Batman with a beard. But I think Pattinson's a great actor. I think he can definitely play the role. I didn't like some of the comments before about him not working out, but then after seeing pictures, but that late now, obviously he was trolling some fans. It looks like he's definitely been working out. He's been getting fit for the part. And I get that there are skinnier Superman, but I don't want to see a string bean Superman. I want to see a guy at least Christian Bale size. Christian Bale was by no means huge, but he was, he's a big guy. I mean,
he was big in Begins, and then after that they slimmed down. But that was on purpose because Nolan said the reason I want you to slim down for Dark Knight because he says I feel like now since you're a full-time crime fighter, you're gonna have less time to work out these muscles and stuff. So that was a conscious decision by them to say I want you to look leaner because you're spending more nights outside cardio, like you're not really building muscle. You're out there just running after people. So and maybe that's a choice they have here too, where he's definitely not Affleck size, but he's more like the leaner, and maybe that's a idea as far as, well, we want you to, it's year 2, so maybe you're not the massive bulking guy. I don't know, right? Because even Affleck, he's at the end of his career, so it's like he's maybe had all this time to build up, where this is only year 2, so as what they say. So
more on Pattinson, I don't like the look. And it's not that it looks it doesn't look terrible. It just doesn't look like Batman to me. It looks like a Batman that you or I would put together to go to a Comic-Con. Shoulder pads, ballpoint pins or whatever, rocket. If those, I swear, like I said, those better not be projectiles on his wrist. but looks like pins on his wrist. It looks like his cowl is like 2 leather shoes, high heel shoes that were like sewed together and then split down the middle and put on top of his head. Looks like he's got 2 little high heels in the back for the ear. I just don't like the cowl, but I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not going to work. And the more and more I think about this, and I was thinking about it today, because I was going to come on here and be like, no, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But there's so many more things about this movie than just Pattinson that I think I can go past that. I think that it doesn't really matter. I think that he can do the job well. I can get past maybe not liking the suit, maybe not loving the Batmobile, stuff like that, and I can grow into it as long as the story's good and the cast is good, which it's phenomenal so far, and the director's good, which he's a great director. So I think that Pattinson as Batman will work. I'm cautious about moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even then, you've been on record saying you were not the biggest fan of the Affleck suit at first, right? And I've always said that that's why, hopefully, at Fandom, you've said this many times. I'm with you. I want to see it in action, not the set photos of him on the bike. I want to see it like well lit, HD, 1080, 4K of him, like whether it's beating up guys or jumping building to building, because that'll be everything. I think it's tough, right? Because you and I talked about that, and I won't repeat this for the GV people. As far as past, and I'm on board. I'm somebody that likes, like, I saw his Twilight stuff, but I've seen his things like The Rover and Good Times and Lighthouse. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He has a big movie coming out on Netflix with Tom Holland coming out where he plays like this like slimy preacher that's like conning everybody and whatnot. So he's a phenomenal actor. So I don't really worry about it that way. With the suit, I always want to see what the take is, because I agree with you that it looks different. And you and me, because I remember when the suit was not revealed yet, you, me, Nathan, Travis, Chris, we were talking a bunch about like, what is it going to be? Because that's what I love about comic movies. There's so many rumors, right? Because for a while there was that rumor that was blue and gray, but that was clearly just somebody spitting shit, because this is nowhere blue. Like, it's all black again, right?
So good though. However they did that, it looks so good.
Oh, I wish. And that's why I hope one day, same thing with looks, like we've not gone that since the 66 Batman. And even that was dark blue. One day I want that like golden bat symbol. I want the blue. I want the gray. So I hope it happens one day. But the suit is definitely different. The shoulder pads. I love the body. I love, because to me is that like Arkham Asylum look where it looks like the plates of armor, which I know you're not a fan of, but I like that. I love the idea if this is that potential, that gun being the bat symbol. Because to me, there was a tweet that came up last night that you and me were talking about with Chris that was talking about, it was a video montage of a quote from Batman Forever, and he's talking about killing people. And just, I've always thought that Batman, even with Batflix, which I'm excited one day we're going to profile all these Batmans, I say Kilmer's Batman is like the closest to Batflix as far as like, he's in so much trouble. At one point in that movie, he says, Alfred, I killed my parents. Like, that's a guy that's going through like a lot of bad stuff. Like, I think he's the most traumatized. And that's why I think that's one quote that the writer put out this week, that he says it's a big movie about dealing with his trauma. If this is a guy who has the gun that killed his parents in his bat symbol, man, and it's year 2. So it's like, he's really messed up, So I don't know what that does to his psyche. The cowl, I wasn't sure at first. I like the back images. I get what you say about like it's like the lace and stitch, but I know it's a weird thing, and this is why we gotta wait for the movie. But I always wonder if there's like a way that, like, because I'm not sure how much you read of it, but with year 1 and that Batman, that suit is not his final one. It is almost like he is a billionaire and he has all this armor and whatnot, but it is more put together. It is more like lower tier. And that's what I think this is trying to be, where it is eventually. I'm not expecting in this movie, but eventually we'll get a different suit or something like that. To me, it looks like he's a billionaire, but he's still trying to do them down low. So he has like this put together. It doesn't look like the suit of a billionaire. I will give you that, but I'm wondering if that's the point of the story. I wonder if there's something to go into that. I don't know if this would happen, but there's a classic Daredevil storyline called Born Again. And what happens is Kingpin takes out all the money from his bank accounts. I, again, don't think that's going to happen in this movie, but I wonder if there is a situation where maybe he's not like, he has money, but it's not like dispensable at any cost, right? Or maybe to make the suit, he has to go to different means and it's lower tier. So I don't know. I want to see the story. I like the look of it. I like how do you feel about the red aesthetic of the movie? Because everything we've seen in the red movie has been red, and that's not really traditionally really been a Batman color, to be honest. It's been black, blue, gray, but it looks like red is kind of, even that Batmobile, remember, I don't know if you recall, but the lights, like the tail lights are red and everything like that. How do you feel about red being the aesthetic they're going with?
I haven't really noticed that, to be honest with you. So I guess,
because remember the Pattinson video, it's all tinted in red, and then if you look at
you're right, yeah,
and then if you look at the Batmobile, the tail lights are red as well, and people have been speculating that the poster might be red. That's just speculation, because as we talked about with DC Fandom, there's thousands of rumors every day about like, oh, Ryan Reynolds is Hawkman, blah blah blah. But what do you feel about red potentially being like a theme color?
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me if that's the color they want to go with, as long as they make it look good. I don't really care. What's the other theme color going to be? Black or gray? I mean, it's got to be. So I mean, I'd rather it be red than yellow. to be honest with you. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it works for me. And like I said, I didn't even really notice it. I do now that you mentioned. I remember the first little patents in the reveal of the cow where it's turning the
Yeah, the
suit where
test
it's
footage.
turning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was had the red in the background, but that may just be a choice of whoever did the final editing of that video and put it out anyway. I don't know if that's a like you said, it could be speculation. There's no telling that's the
Yeah.
theme they're going with, especially when we've only seen what 20 seconds of actual live footage, and that was test footage of a costume design, and then
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything else live. Everything else has been pictures, correct?
Yeah, I think there was that video going around of the stunt Batman when he fell.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
fell on the motorcycle. Yeah,
yeah. So I don't think that's named the final cut, but yeah, nothing like they've put out, nothing as I would say like official that to me looks good because we've seen that many times of Shazam or even Black Panther when that suit came out. Everyone was like, "This looks like a fucking Power Ranger," but it's like once you got to the movie and they had the digital effects and they had like the stunt doubles. It looked good. It looked like it fit. So I never we kind of never do that as far as like the set footage, but it's I do wonder what those pins are on his wristbands because his wrist blades, because I am with you. I wonder what those are for. I'm hoping what if they're like grappling hooks, so like that's his grappling hook instead of the gun, it's he shoots it and it like holds him up.
would you want those things to support your weight and hold you up?
Well, it's like the Batman crate thing. It's at the end of the day, it is a comic book movie, right? So they might take some light, or what if not one shoots out? What if they all shoot out together? What about that?
That seems plausible, but at the same time, it seems like whenever you get back up there, you're taking all of them out and reeling them back in,
Yeah.
plugging them back in before you can do what you got to do. I mean, maybe I don't know. Like, we don't know what's going on with it. It could just be there for looks. It
100%.
Maybe something that whenever the movie's finished, that you don't even see that's covered up by something, computer digitally or something. We don't even know, but. I don't know, man. I hope it is at least.
I know. I am with you. It will create a storm if we get some scene where he like turns around, like shoots some guy in the throat with it, and then it's gonna be, it'll be interesting to see what's gonna happen. So this is a bunch of interviews have happened with the director and the writers. They've all said this is taking place year 2 because people were like, oh, it's the younger Batman is an origin. They said it's not an origin story, it's year 2. So you and I talked about this a bit last night as far as there was this big graphic novel by Frank Miller named Year 1, and it was about kind of his transcendence to Batman, his first year, and this is year 2. I'll go because some GV fans have heard me say this before. I am not a fan of this choice. I am supporting the movie and the director and the cast. Like I think it's going to be good, so I'm fine. But that was what I've always said about Ben Affleck's Batman that made me the most excited was that it was an older Batman. To me, we just had 3 movies with Bale being the younger Batman. We saw his origin, we saw his rising. Well, we saw him rise a few times, but we saw, right. You know what I mean? Like we saw him rising, and then we saw his rises, but like we saw that kind of career. And I know people make the joke like, well, if you do the math, it's only like a year and a half he was Batman. It's like, well, yeah, it was the realistic world. They were trying, like it fit for what they were going for in that movie of it's just mobsters, right? So it still, to me, tackled a start and finish point of Batman. And where Batman was starting to get darker, that's where we brought in Ben Affleck's Batman, where this is a Batman where, to me, if you look at Christian Bale's Batman, he ended with Selena Kyle, and then he left off, and he has a happy ending. Some people don't like that. I do, because it's a different take, because sometimes Batman never gets that, right? So I was like, okay, I enjoy this. But Ben Affleck's Batman is that Batman that didn't get that happy ending. Like he was going to go with Selena Kyle, and she died, or like he just chose to stay, and we just see him brutal. And that's where, for me, I was very excited to see, okay, an older Batman established world where it could be established world because we hear there's like Falcone in it, and Penguin and Riddler. So it could be kind of like the animated series with a bunch of villains running around, but I still need to be sold. And again, I'm going to be there night 1. I'll be excited for it. But as far as the actual story and plot, I need to be sold on why do we need it to be a younger Batman again, other than just we wanted a young actor, which I don't think that's the answer. I imagine they have a story reason, but I need to see something different other than kind of that begins Dark Knight combo. What do you say about you as far as a Batman? Again, it's not his origin, but it is, it's the year after he's been Batman.
Right. Well, I actually read Year 1 last night on DC University because
nice.
they have it on there. It's issues 404 through 407, and it's written by Frank Miller and Dave Mazzucchelli, which is funny because you had mentioned the Daredevil Born Again. Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli are the same 2 people who did Daredevil Born Again as well. That was actually why they were brought back to do Year 1, because Frank Miller had already done Dark Knight Returns, and it was such a popular hit, and it was so big that at that point in time, that was after Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they're trying to reset kind of every character's storyline. So they needed to reset Batman's storyline. So it's because Frank Miller did such a great job of telling kind of an Elseworlds older story in Dark Knight Returns. They brought him in for this, and they brought Mazzucchelli in because they did a great job rebooting Daredevil. And it's basically year one supposed to be kind of a new start for Batman.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it was Batman taken more seriously and more real world. And I was thinking about this today. It's kind of crazy because I think that the first 4 Batman movies made were probably made by people and directors and for people that grew up with Batman pre-80s, like the pre-stories before that. They had the more jokey kind of Batman, still had serious stories, but a little more over the top, a little more campy. Then after this came out, everything after this, and this influenced everything from the future about Batman being a more serious character or down-to-earth real-world character. Now we're getting those movies. Now we're getting, since the Nolan trilogy, we're getting the version of Batman, because the Nolan trilogies rely heavily on year one.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That first movie is very much, they change a few things here and there, but and that's why I wonder if that's why they said we're not good. Because lots of people at first, they were reporting like, oh, this is adaptation of year one. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Because, okay, you could do like a full on straight point A to point B, but I always was like, Batman Begins is an adaptation. Of course, obviously, there's different things with the train and Ra's al Ghul, but it's like that's very close to that story of him meeting Gordon and establishing, and not like he has like that jumpsuit that isn't Batman. Like it's very similar to it. So that's why I was like, this does make sense if we're gonna get another year one. So at first, I was like really down on it.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I think that's just kind of the point that we're at. I think that now that because this came out in what, 87, 86.
87, yeah.
87, okay. And Dark Knight Returns came out, 2 years before that. So, I mean, that was the time whenever, I guess these are the comics that me and you, or I'm a little bit older than you, my generation is reading growing up. It's a little bit before my time, but I mean, it's stuff that I go back and read. And 90s comics of the more serious Batman. So now this crowd you've got to cater to, this is the Batman we grew up reading. So this is the Batman we need, as opposed to the ones in the early 90s were the ones that our parents grew up reading. Type deal, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But year 2 Batman is going to be, because there is an actual year 2 comic. I don't know.
Yeah, you sent me that. Or was it to base off the Frank Miller, or like the run of his second year when it was that gun photo you sent me last night?
The gun photo I sent you. That was. It's not a Frank Miller comic, but it's supposed to kind of follow in line with that. It's only like a 3 or 4 comic book arc.
Man, if that was the poster they dropped in fandom, the internet, including myself, would lose it. If the poster was just, with a handgun to his chest, and he has that little smile, I'm like, oh man, it's like you thought there was some gunplay in the Batfleck one. No, you got this coming up.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I think the year 2 is not a bad idea. Like I said, I don't think they're following that year 2 comic because I don't think it's popular enough, and they're just going to kind of lead on or continue on the story of Frank Miller's year 1. And I think that's kind of going to be a continuation of what Nolan was doing. And it's going to be interesting because this gives them an opportunity to tell Batman's origin story without telling Batman's origin story.
Exactly. Yeah.
So and the same way what we want.
Well, and it's the same way I feel like, I don't know if I put this as a question, but it's a factor. I'll hit you with a fact or fiction. Do we see Bruce Wayne's parents gunned down in this movie?
Yes, I think we do, but I don't think it's a scene that's like a 2 or 3 minute scene. I think it's going to be something that's like a small flashback in his head, maybe 5-6 seconds. You see the gun there, you hear the trigger, you see him on the ground with his parents, and that's probably it. Few seconds, nothing else.
You and me are in complete alignment with that. It's the same way we talking about funny how we keep talking about Forever, but Forever does that same thing, right? Val Kilmer only has quick flashes of his parents getting shot. There's never a full scene. It's when he's talking to Chase Meridian about like, there's a demon and blah, 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 and there's this bat and stuff. So I think it will be that, because I think it's the same way. 89 also, we got a whole scene. 89 isn't an origin movie, but it is almost a year 2 Batman as well, because it's like he's Batman, and then halfway through the film, like something reminds him of his parents' murder. Obviously, it's because the Joker killed his parents. But at that point, when you're watching it the first time, it's not an origin movie. It turns into like a pseudo origin movie to be like, oh, well, his parents were dead. And, oh, the Joker did it. So it's like it kind of does that. I don't think we'll have anything in this movie where, I don't think the Riddler's going to kill his parents. I hope not. But something where there'll be a similar situation. Or I've always thought, if we don't know if he's in there, but let's say there is a young Dick Grayson or something like that, the second he meets them, that would be your in to start talking about his parents and to have flashbacks about his parents, of Dick Grayson seeing his parents die, whether it's this movie or the next movie, if they're in this trilogy. that's an easy end. So I'm with you as far as I think we'll see it in flashback form. And I am excited because year 2 at least sets up some stuff where I do like the idea of the universe is already set up. It reminds me a lot of Holland's first Spider-Man, right? Of there's no origin. He's been Spider-Man for a while. So it's not he's learning everything, but there's still some things he has to learn. There's already some villains out and about. So I like that idea. And it is kind of an inspiration from year 1 because Catwoman was huge in year 1. And she's in this movie just already. We don't know if she's going to be full in Catwoman, but the fact that she's already here, to me, it's just a theory. I could be wrong, but I feel like she's going to be in this entire trilogy. I really do. If you introduce her this early, I think she'll be around, even if she's just Selena Kyle now, Catwoman, and maybe the third movie is like a Hush where it ends with them being like their identities revealed and their love interests, like I feel like she's going to be around for a little while. So, all right.
No, I agree with you, as well she should be, because I love Catwoman. She's definitely in there, great character. I think that we're actually going to get a hint at a Dick Grayson, or not necessarily meet, but there's some point in time you'll see his name on screen somewhere. You'll hear his name somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Something or even the Flying Graysons, you could hear that name, right?
Right. You'll hear something like that. Yeah. In this first movie, I believe.
Well,
so.
Yeah. Well, it could be because, like, obviously directors, I'm not saying they do the same thing over and over, but sometimes like Tarantino and all, they cover similar themes. And the thing with Matt Reeves is as far as Good Time and Robert Pattinson. So Matt Reeves didn't direct this film called Good Time, but Good Time is about Robert Pattinson, and he's just like this slimy crook who's like, he steals something and he owes a lot of people money. But for the first half of that movie, he has his younger brother who's special needs, but he is like always like, it's a very at the beginning a brother sort of movie. And that's why when he announced Pattinson was casted, he used a gif from Good Time, and I always wondered, did he see that and he saw that like younger brother relationship and went, oh, if I'm going to ever do anything with Dick Grayson, this is something I could use, because I've seen him. Again, it could just be, no, he likes that movie and he used that gif. We as fans reading the things all the time, but you never know. And I just feel like there's potential for it. And I personally want that. Again, I still feel like there is a movie of just a trilogy of him and Robin, learning together, growing together, then growing apart, and then Nightwing. Like, I love that stuff. I've always said like my Star Wars movie I would love to make one day is the story of an apprentice, but not like from the master's point of view. The story of this kid is, living at his home, and then he gets picked up and he gets taken away. We've never really seen that. We got that with Hayden Christensen, or like Anakin in Phantom Menace, but it cuts off right when his training begins. I feel like that has to be a huge experience, and maybe that won't happen in this trilogy, but I legitimately feel like you could make a movie where Robin is the main character, and it's with his parents dying, with him going to the mansion, and it's all from his perspective. So you can get Batman in there in action scenes, but it's all him just soaking this all in. So I'm with you. I all the time hope that we're going to get something Dick Grayson related in the future, because it's all we have is forever, and like, I love the reveal, but Dark Knight Rises is like, it's a cheat, right? It's more a tribute to the character. It's not the character. It's like a tribute to it,
I agree.
So
yep, I agree. If it continued, he was in no way, shape, or form going to be Robin. Yeah. It was just fan service, but it was nice to have it in there.
Yeah, and say the same thing. I one day want them to announce a graphic novel of like his first few weeks, even if the first few weeks ends with him dying right away because he sucks, like, and he's not trained properly. I would love to, because I talked about this with Travis once, in my vision of people always go, well, he has no training, what would he do? I feel like he would get like the Batman Beyond Batman suit that'd be like, you don't have the training, but we're going to give you projectiles, we're going to give you rockets, we're going to give you stuff to help along, because no one talks about this. Terry McGinnis, the Batman Beyond, all he has is he's athletic and he's in wrestling in high school. Like that's all he is. He's just a wrestler. And it's like, that's why I like the excuse of, well, he has an Iron Man type suit that helps him. So it's like, okay, he's more powerful, he's quicker. So to me, I always envisioned if he went in that Bat Cave like Robin Blake, there would be a new suit for him. And it's like, oh, this is Iron Man light. We know you might get killed, so here's some armor. And I would love like I said, just a graphic novel of in the Nolan universe. I'd love a story of what happened to Heath Ledger's Joker, because that's always one of my biggest cons, that they don't even mention him in The Dark Knight Rises at all. They just ignore it completely. You
could have brought him back for another movie, even though what's the second one? Dark Knight is long enough. It could be 2 movies almost.
Oh yeah.
Well, every time I watch that movie, I get to the end of the first plot point, I'm like, okay, movie's almost over. Oh no, wait, I still got another hour and 15 minutes. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You know what? It's a good hour and 15 minutes, so I don't mind it.
Well, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this after Dark Knight Rises. There's this thing going around on Twitter where people were like it was like a fantasy of, so when Bane breaks out all the criminals in, I think it was, I can't remember what they're calling, I think it was Blackgate Prison or something like that at that point, but so he breaks all the criminals out, but someone did this artwork where he breaks all the criminals and he's walking through the jail cells, and then he looks down the hall and all you see is the Joker's eyes. And then so he's opened up all the jail cells, and when he sees the Joker's eyes, he opens them all up except for that one, and then he locks that one shut because he would know that I can't let this guy out because he's going to mess up everything. And to me, like, obviously that's like a Monday quarterback, but it's like that would have been perfect because you don't need to cast a new actor in that role. You just get someone that looks like Heath Ledger's face. You have the eyes, and that would make that, to me, would be the perfect tribute to that character, as far as like even Bane knows, like, I can't let this fucker out because he's going to mess up all my plans. So like, I think in the Dark Knight Rises novelization, I might be wrong, but I think they said something, the canon ending for that Joker is he's the last patient of our Arkham Asylum, and they just left him up there. Like Arkham Asylum supposedly got closed down and he's just left up there, which I kind of like. That's kind of creepy and cool.
Well, let me ask you something. This is kind of off topic here because you're
that's what we do, you know.
That's right. You're the big Nolan guy here. Heath Ledger, how long after Dark Knight came out did he pass away?
He passed away before, like it was, I think they just finished photography, so I feel like it was at least 6 months before they actually came out. Yeah.
Do you think that had to do with the way they went in the future? Do you think that if that character had come out and was so popular, was that popular when he came out, he would have been the villain in the third movie?
100%. And that's why, because Dylan has this, because Dylan hates Dark Knight Rises. Me and him joke about it all the time, and he always just says they should have done something better. And I get that, but that's always, it might be a scapegoat, and people can say that to me and say it's a cop-out answer, but I go with it every time. That the reason I love Dark Knight Rises, but I do think it's the weakest of the three. I think it has so many problems. Like, there's so many plot holes, but it's just like, as a comic movie, I really like it. I like the Batman tale, but to me, it is just like, there's been rumblings, and he's never said it because I think Nolan's just like a respectful guy. He doesn't really, and like the Heath thing, I think did, like, he said it was really hard even editing that movie after. So I think it impacted that whole cast. I remember Christian Bale went to the MTV Movie Awards and they were showing a preview for The Dark Knight Rises, but it was like a look back at all the other movies. And he was just bawling while he was talking because like that was a young guy. They didn't expect for him just to drop dead, right? So I think it took them all by surprise. I think for him, as far as Dark Knight Rises, I always give it a pass because he had a movie in mind. He went, okay, the way The Dark Knight ends to me is a clear setup of like, I feel like Nolan knew where he was going with this character and what's next. But then the second Heath Ledger passed away, that was like ripped away from him, you know, even to me. And people can say, oh, you don't know that. I don't know that. I would love to, even if I don't interview him, just to sit down in a room with Nolan. That's my ultimate. It's like, tell me what the original Batman 3 was. And and then watch me be super disappointed when he's like, you saw it. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I just feel like him putting in that line at the end when Joker's hung upside down and he says, you and I are destined to do this forever. That to me is not a line to like throw in there for him not to have any more plans with Joker. You know, to me, even if he wasn't the main villain, I think he would have had some, because there was rumors too that he might be a Hannibal Lecter type character where Batman had to go for him to get information. I don't know what it would have been, but I do think that that movie completely changed when he passed away. And I always want to see that reality of what would happen if he was alive, because he would have been a mega star. Like, obviously he was already a star, but when that movie, Joaquin Phoenix, like, Joker was big, but Joaquin Phoenix was already pretty established and he's been around for a while and he's older. Heath Ledger, if he was still around and that movie came out, he would have just been massive. Like how much that Joker blew up, like Hot Topic and posters, he would have been printing money for the rest of his life.
He was already a successful and popular actor. To a certain extent, it would have been the next 10 years of his life would have been the best 10 years of his life. It would have been like The Rock's run for how actors do that. They go through this certain point in time where you see Tom Hanks or Will Smith or these actors everything for like 3 or 4 years. Then after 3 or 4 years, you don't really see him much anymore. You see him in a few things, but not like they were. That was his moment. I think that would have been his takeoff film. Like I said, he wasn't a bad actor before. He was a great actor before, had some success. I just feel like that was the one that was really going to put him over the top.
Well, it's just even like he had that for a while, and that's I check out Slice of Film on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network for Batman Returns. Nathan K, you were talking about, like, because Nathan is older than me, and he was talking about after Batman and between Batman Returns, Keaton just blew up, and for years he was doing like big movies, and he was a massive star. And then even like you said, eventually he went away. He was different because he just had problems with Hollywood and he wanted a break. But that I think would have been the same thing if Keaton blew up big time after Batman, and Ledger would have been. I think he would have been all over the place. And that's why it's funny, probably in some universe, he is alive and people are like, man, Heath Ledger's in everything. Like the same Jennifer Lawrence, if you're like, she's in too much, but it's like, like in our universe, we're like, oh man, only if we we could have like had him for a little longer. So speaking of, so now we can transition this back into our topics. As far as the Nolan universe, we talked about how that was a realistic take. What I guess like I always have to preference this because people be like, well, some like people say like Iron Man's realistic. I want to ask you, let's say we get this full trilogy. Do we see like a Clayface? Do we see like Killer Croc? Or do you think they are going to be more of the Nolan-esque where you'll get a Two-Face, but it's like a really realistic version of how it happens? Because that's how honestly I feel it's going to go. I think it's because you look at the characters they've chosen, Catwoman, Riddler, and Penguin, all characters that could be Earth-based, mobsters, exactly. So what do you think about the future of these movies?
No, I agree with you 100%. I don't think that we're going to see a Clayface. I don't think that we're going to see a Killer Croc. I mean, we may, like you said, may see something like that. There's going to be a crazy explanation. I think it's
like a guy with a skin disease or something.
Right.
I
think it's after it's already established. I think any kind of like fantastical things going on right now is not going to be there. I mean, I get it. These are comic book movies, so there's going to be certain things that you always have to suspend your belief with. Captain America's shield's not going to bounce like that. It's not going to go back to
what?
Spider-Man's not always going to have a place to sling web sling. Same way with Batman's not always going to have a place to hit his grappling hook with. But some things you just got to accept and let go of. I think that this one will probably be right in line with Batman vs Superman with the Nolan trilogy, where it's going to be as grounded as it can be while still being a comic book movie.
See, I agree with you there, but then Batman v Superman takes that turn of like you have Superman, right? You have aliens, you have like in this universe, do you think we'd have an alien? Because that's one thing people, again, like this is why I love these conversations. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm so excited for Robert Pattinson's Batman, but this is another reason why I'm not excited, because I love the world of Batflick's Batman as far as there is a Killer Croc. There is a Joker that fell in chemicals. I love like the Heath Ledger Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but I still want different versions, and I want versions that we haven't seen yet. I want a Mr. Freeze, and like that you can make realistic, sure, but I want them to go comic booky where this is a guy that can't stand in certain temperatures and he has a freeze gun. I don't need like a really like, oh, this is the realistic Mr. Freeze. Like, no, just go comic book. And that's what with Batflick, that's
Arnold
what
Schwarzenegger comic book.
Well, there's always a line, and you don't want to
comic book.
Yeah. So. And that's what excited me so much about Batflick was, he's in a world where Superman exists. If Superman exists, that means a man who has the face of many clays can like be around, and that's my other disappointment of, I hope it's not another kind of origin story, and I hope that we eventually do get there. Like when we meet the Joker, I hope it is he has burned skin and not I got why they went for it with the Joaquin Joker, because they said we're going really realistic, but after I think the only reason they got away with that is because they made that look so different. Like he looked like a circus clown, right? I always thought that you can't do that again because that's Heath's look. The makeup look that's his, and they did it. They pull off, but I still feel like I don't know if you could do that again, where again, if let's say it's Batman 2 with Pattinson and a guy shows up and he's in makeup again, I'll go, well, like we've just had this recently. Offset Leto's was the same thing. People may make the argument, not the performance, but the look might be a little too past for some people, myself included, but it's still like, I liked that idea of, okay, Ace chemicals, whatnot. So I don't know if we're going to get that. My prediction is no, but I hope we get to that point.
Well, going back to it being more realistic and, what we're kind of expect out of this movie. Mattinson Tomlin, who is one of the co-writers of the movie, had a interview with Den of Geek a few days ago, and he described it as a younger Batman with means. Make sure I'm on the right spot here. Hang on, I had it. I would say a young, recently traumatized Batman in an emotionally driven exploration of how he reacts to that trauma.
Yeah, which that doesn't sound like he's fighting any crocodile man right now to me.
No, but it also to me doesn't sound like he's quarreling over his parents' death, because if he's talking about a recently traumatized Batman and he's supposed to be in his mid-20s here, his parents got killed when he was like 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
There's no way you're going to try to sell it that in his mid-20s he's still. I mean, I'm not saying you can't be traumatized by it, but you can't tell me that it's something that's still controlling his life.
Yeah.
I think there's something else that happens in this film that traumatizes him and makes him do whatever he's about to do, because some of the hints that he dropped at was. He's going to let his emotions get the best of him. It's not a trained Batman. It's not a new. It's a new
I didn't see that quote. I saw that first quote, but I actually missed that one. So like, let's just be honest here. Like, Do you think this Batman is going to kill or take lives? Like, also, we had that discussion of Bale and whatnot, but I mean, do you think there's going to be that's not a one rule? That's where I'd say the difference between Ben Affleck's Batman, where it's like he has a line, but clearly he crossed it, but that wasn't huge. Just like Alfred didn't go in there and be like, you're breaking your rule. Where Nolan's, they beat you over the head with it, right? Like, you have a rule, Like, do you think that's established as he has a rule, or is it just he's Batman and maybe some stuff's happening? Because if they do the more Batfleck route, I'll be surprised, because like obviously that got a lot of pushback, but then there's tons of fans of that version, right? And if they're saying he's more brutal, that is, I don't know, it's tough. Like, some of those quotes make me think if he's more emotional, that that could mean anything, right?
Right. I think that they establish a no killing rule in this episode, or not episode, this movie. I think this is where he kind of gets that. I think that he's probably going to do some killing or make a kill
or be close to it, right? Like beyond, like maybe, like I always compare, like the reason how I like Batman is I always compare what Luke does to Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, where he like beats him down, he cuts off his arm, and he has him on the inch of death, but then he backs off. That to me is Batman. Like in I think it's Hush, where Batman just like beats Joker to tar and his teeth are knocked out and everything like that, and he's like dead to rights, but Batman like stops himself. So it could even be that where he is like on the edge of, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is the movie that shows that he can't do that. Like that should be, he can't cross that line.
Right. Well, and that with the director saying that this is a movie where his emotions are going to get the best of him. He's going to learn lessons from his emotions getting the best of him. I think that's kind of that, to me, that's what it sounds like they're setting up for. Yeah. Is that maybe he's in year 2, he ends up killing this guy because, you know what, after a year of chasing this guy, I'm tired of this shit and I'm just going to kill him. And then he realizes that maybe, maybe somebody like Selena Kyle comes in because she is his kind of alter ego. She's his, she's like the female version of Joker. She's the other side of him. Maybe she comes in and talks some sense into him, because we don't know yet if she's going to be a villain or a friend in this one.
Oh yeah, she's been, and that's why I think she'll be in it throughout, because I could see her being the more villainous side on this one, or the opposing side, right? As far as I could see her being in opposition in this, working together in the second, and then the third, like I said, maybe them being together. Because we've seen even in Batman Returns, that's what I love about that version, is she flips back and forth every 20 minutes. 1 minute she's kind of with Catwoman or with Batman and helping him, and then the next she's like slamming her claws into him. So I would love harken back to that. I liked what they did in Dark Knight Rises, but I just don't think they give that Catwoman enough time to really, like, I just thought there's too much going on in that movie for her to really get a sense of what that character was. So I would like the kind of that version if she is more either opposed, or I don't know if I can trust her. I don't want her date like right away be like, this is Catwoman and I don't catch her because she's a criminal, but we work together. I don't want that. I want, like, can she be trusted? Maybe this is the first time they meet. Even if she's Catwoman, he could just hear rumblings of there is a other vigilante or a thief going around, and he doesn't know who it is. So yeah, and then like you said, she could even be pushing, because at times Catwoman has had the edge of she kills, Batman doesn't, but she kills, and that's not a problem for her. And we've kind of got that different story where Batman maybe shows her the light and says, you shouldn't do this, you should change your ways. But maybe when he meets her, she's kind of egging him on, like, oh, you should cross that line. Like, why aren't you crossing that line? Right. These people are these are terrible people. And we don't even know how, I guess we were already talking about that, but we don't even know how the Riddler's going to like function into all these characters as well.
Right. And I want to go back and restate what I was saying earlier. The quote is actually, Batman is a younger and suggests brasher, less cautious Batman whose emotions might get him in trouble, but I can't say anything more without me getting in trouble. So
he just gives us the whole ending of the movie. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I missed those ones. So yeah, that's good. So we talked about, that was the next question I had about the villains. As far as we talked about Catwoman just now, is there anything you want to add on her that we haven't touched?
No, I mean,
excited to see the costume. I hope we get that this weekend.
Excited to see the costume. Yeah, and you actually were asking, are we moving in that segment of the potential villains' costumes?
Yeah. Because we were already talking about Catwoman. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Give me for Catwoman, because I mean the 3 big ones we're talking about, I'm assuming, are Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for Catwoman, number 1, give me a Jim Lee Catwoman. That's my look right there. If you're not going to do that, then give me a Jim Balent, 1993 purple suit.
That
first skin tight one. I love that one. And then you can also give me Stephen Lau's new one of the newest, most recent run of Catwoman.
Yeah.
I think
with the goggles and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a combination of those two.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely lean towards, because we have nothing but just looking at Passon's suit. I could see the goggles last because honestly, too, in games recently, like in the Arkham games, that's almost becoming her most current look right now. That whole like it's like leather, but it's not. It's like skin tight, like sexualized leather with like because you look at some of those in the 80s, like just massive cleavage, like her and Black Cat. That like male artists just had like they went so overboard with like this is what the woman looks like.
Starfire in the 80s comics. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like
so I think this costume is one where it's like it still makes her seductress and sexy, but it has the appeal like, oh, she's wearing this as like almost like a ninja sword. And the goggles, that to me just is like a realistic way to get like the ears on her. I think Catwoman, I love the Batman Returns suit, but I think that suit just fits for that movie. I don't even know I could see that in any other suits or whatnot. But yeah, I agree. I think I agree with you. I lean more towards the goggle look, but I think that's the route we're going. So what about Riddler?
Riddler, man, Riddler and Penguin were kind of the same for me. There's a lot of different ways they can go. It's kind of crazy because a lot of Batman villains are guys in suits, So for the Riddler, for me, give me the Injustice look Riddler, where it's the somewhat nice green suit with the purple question marks on it, the top hat with the purple stripe. I don't want Jim Carrey Riddler. And don't get me wrong.
You don't want the light up suit,
Spandex, no. Yeah. Especially the white light up suit, no.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, like the robe one. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, for the time, Jim Carrey did a great job. He was that guy then. He was the guy who was in every movie. He got that role.
He was,
He was in every movie. It was right before Adam Sandler or right after Adam Sandler. I can't remember one of the two, but
he was. It definitely went like Eddie Murphy, him, Sandler, Farrell. Like those were the the passing of the like comedy icons, and he was everything. I think he got paid tons of money to be in that movie because he was Jim Carrey, and they were like, oh, he's gonna cost us a fortune. So
we had to learn how to spin that baton too. So but just don't give me that one. I mean, I think you can go a lot of different ways with Riddler, but I think the look I like the most is probably the Injustice from the video game.
So yeah, if I went look I like the most, I could agree with you there. I also like the animated series where he is just like a green suit, the green bowler hat. Like it is outlandish, but it's still suity. I honestly have a feeling that he is not going to have any type of suit he will wear a regular suit that is green. I don't think there will even be a question mark on it. I could see it being as realistic as that. I could see it being the same way when we got the first images of Joker. We had the green hair and the makeup, but everything else was like, this is just a guy in like a purple suit, right? And I think it might be that because there's been rumors as far as like Sherlock Holmes and some people, which I hope because I'm a big Saw fan, but some people have compared to this Riddler that he might be like a Jigsaw-like character. If that's the case, he might not be on screen as opposing villain much. He might be being hunted by Batman. You might hear his voice a lot, but actually seeing him, I don't know, like Catwoman and Batman, they need the suit to go out. I'm envisioning this Riddler might be a guy that he doesn't need the suit because his Riddler-esque stuff he's never there in person. He doesn't really have to do it. And when like I don't even think we'd see him with the eye face mask, like that Riddler look. So that's kind of my prediction that I think he will have a like trivia as far as this is a green suit, maybe some sort of question mark tie or something. But I don't think it's going to be outlandish. I think it's going to be really down to earth. Watch, and then this weekend we'll see him in a green unitard with the like and maybe like the same thing with his baton or the cane. I think it would just be a cane. I would love. There's a version. Oh man, I'm not sure if you read, but it was this. It's book just called Joker, and it came out the year after Dark Knight, The Dark Knight, and it's about this tale of Joker and him getting out Arkham and seeing all these people. But this Riddler, and I don't think they will go this route because this guy's Riddler, but I have always wanted to see he's like a crippled, like he's really broken down, and he has like instead of the Riddler on a jacket, he has the question mark like scarred into his stomach. That's a little much. I don't know if they'll do that, but and again, that's a bit of an older Joker, but we never know. All it takes is some makeup, and maybe he's been crippled by something else. Because Riddler, that's a good thing about him. He's all brains. It doesn't. He could be in a wheelchair. He could be blind. Like he's a character that it's just as long as his mind is working in there, that's all that matters. He doesn't need anything else really, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which version of Riddler it is. When Batman finds him, it's just a one punch and it's over. There's no threat. Like people say that about Joker. Joker is that, but Joker is still like he's cagey and he always has like gadgets and ass and stuff like that. Riddler doesn't have that. He just has his cane.
And in certain versions, Joker can actually fight.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like can seriously fight. So I mean, it's not just he's not always just win. But yeah, I agree. If Riddler ever gets caught, that's the trick. Is Riddler just doesn't get caught, because if you don't get caught, then you can't get defeated like that. I think you're right. I think it's gonna be more realistic, and it could even be somewhat so realistic where it's like just straight business suit that has a green tint to like a dark green tint to it. Not like this neon green jokey outfit, like something you would actually see somebody wear into a business, for a job.
Yeah.
It well could be narrowed down or toned down like that.
Well, one thing you pointed out, like this is like a mini off topic, it won't take too long, is like with the Joker and fighting. I loved, I'm not sure how much of them you read, but I know we're both Scott Snyder fans of Batman, and his Endgame run I love because there's that one moment, it's mini spoilers, I won't tell the whole story, but Batman and Joker are fighting in a cave, and Joker had like died or something like that, and he went in the Lazarus pit. And at one moment they're like fighting, but Joker is like doing backflips and he's like out fighting him. And he says this line to Batman. He's like, can I fight like this because the Lazarus pit? Or could I always fight like this and I'm just holding back? And that's what I always love about Joker is like, you don't know, because maybe he could just fight and he won the game. And that's what, like you said, there's any versions like that. But Riddler, I don't recall people, whether it's Twitter or comments on YouTube, if you have some version of Riddler that's not like a fighting game where he's a character, if you have some version where he's a fighting character, let me know, because I've never seen that in comic books, video games, movies. It's not much. Like even Jim Carrey's Riddler might be the most fighting because he twirls around with a cane and hits a couple guys. Like most of the time he's just in a chair somewhere or he's in a room, not getting physical. So Penguin next. I'll start with Penguin because I don't think you've seen this, but there's a game, Batman Telltale, and it's not happening anymore because the whole company went out. But it was like, it's a choose your own adventure sort of Batman game, but he was literally just kind of the Telltale series. Yeah. He was like, he was like just a kind of mobster guy, and he just had the hair and he had like the eye thing, but it wasn't like his actual eye. Like he could take it out. Like he was just kind of like, he was skinny and he was very slim fit. And that's what people talked about before, right? With Colin Farrell's like, he's a really good looking guy. Is he gonna get the DeVito treatment where I don't think he'll be from the sewer with penguins, but are they gonna put a bunch of makeup on him, or are they gonna go a different route? I think they're going that more sleeker kind of business little gangster style with the penguins. So that's what I think they will do. I think again they won't make that one too elaborate because I don't know, because I feel like it's, what are you going to do? You're just going to put him maybe in a fat suit, maybe, or something like that. I just feel like you don't need to do that. Call Plot is about money and guns and controlling Gotham, but like staying low. Like we talked about this a few weeks ago with Katie, because she asked, like, is Penguin a main villain or not? Every decade it's been different. Sometimes he's been a scary foe that is the top of the chain. Sometimes he's just like a runt that Batman goes to beat up and get information. And I think he's going to be this version. I think he's going to be the runt that gives him information, and Batman, he just doesn't want to get caught. Maybe he's in action a little bit, but Colin Farrell's even been on record and said like he doesn't have tons to do in this movie, not in a negative way, just like his shooting is not as long as others people. So I think he'll be that type of maybe informant, scared of Batman.
Somewhat more minor role. Yeah. For me, I just wrote down 4 things that I think you need to have for Penguin. I think you're good. Doesn't matter about size or anything else. I think Colin Farrell can do a great job. I don't think there's a reason you have to have him be an overweight person or be kind of fat or short, whatever. Even though I get it's more comic book accurate as far as the image, but you can write it however you want to. I want pinstripe pants. I want a top hat. I want a monocle, and I want a cigar. Give me those 4 things, and I've got the Penguin.
I think you'll get them all except the pants. I think the pants you won't get. I could see the monocle. I could see the top hat, the cigar for sure. Well, actually, I don't know, because I remember sometimes I think with some movies, if you smoke in movies in some markets, it bumps up to a rated R. So that might not happen because they want to keep, unless it's, my theory was that this Batman is going to be rated R. I still don't know if I'm 100% on that, but I still feel with the Snyder Cut happening next year and being another Batman, I still feel there's a chance that this Batman could be rated R, and that's another way to differentiate. But yeah, I think the cigar I kind of forgot about, but I think the pants, maybe he'll be wearing them one time. Maybe he'll have some like pinstripe pajamas or something like Black Mask and Birds of Prey had that. So, and then we went to the costumes first. Obviously, we're on board with Catwoman, and you and I talked about Riddler last time because he was kind of in both our lists of characters we like. But obviously, it's an easy question, but we're happy with the choices of Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin so far as like the first outing. I know some people again went, oh, it's the same characters, but I guess for me, it's just because we've read so much Batman. I go, yeah, but there's so many different versions of those characters we haven't seen yet, right? And for me with Riddler, I know you like Riddler and Jim Carrey's one. I like it to an extent, but I don't think that's not the Riddler I've read in comic books. So I want to see that on screen, that mastermind. And that's why I'm very happy he's the first villain. So I'm pretty happy with all these. And I think you're probably the same.
Yeah, I'm the same. And with the Jim Carrey Riddler, I don't want to see that Riddler again, but he fit that story well. He fit that script and that
era too.
well. Yeah. I think that it is a good idea to have these three in there because one, I love Catwoman. I think anytime you have Batman, I honestly think Catwoman and Joker and Robin should be a standard to be in just about every Batman movie or have a presence in every Batman movie. Those three should. Just my opinion. They don't, but they should have a presence in every Batman movie.
Yeah.
And it does kind of feel like they're piggybacking off of Gotham, though. Like I get it that they're switching up the movie villains because the last movie villains, they didn't have Riddler or Penguin. They did have Catwoman. If you want to consider Anne Hathaway a real Catwoman, they had Catwoman.
Yeah. They had Selena Kyle, like she was Catwoman, but she wasn't. Again, maybe Catwoman's not like a main villain in this, but again, like we said, this is the beginning of a trilogy. So I think where that was the end, right? It was like, this is all we're getting with Anne Hathaway. We're not getting any more with this. I think the door is going to be open.
So I'm just wondering if they're kind of piggybacking off of Gotham because Gotham would have been in like a year one and they're not continuing the exact same story per se, but they're kind of taking that story and continuing it with Matt Reeves' version where, now you're going into the next stage of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle and, Nigma's life and everything else and kind of going forward.
And you're getting the show too. Remember on HBO Max, you're getting that Gotham PD show.
That's right. Exactly. So good way to tie it into it. But yeah, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's good. I mean, I think it would be a mistake to put the Joker or Two-Face back in there or Bane. Or Ra's al Ghul, to be really honest.
In this movie or the entire trilogy?
In this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
In trilogy, you can bring them in, but to introduce them in this trilogy, give me somebody you haven't had in the last few Batman villain movies, or Batman for movies.
No, I agree. I still think because even like Nolan, that's the perfect to me ending of a comic book movie. Still, is like maybe you got some things like Infinity War, the Snap, but I love the Batman Begins. Like I'll look into it with the card. I think you don't like the Burton Batman led with Joker because that was we got to kickstart Batman, and that was what you did in classic comic book movies, right? Like Spider-Man, Green Goblin. Like the old school is always you start with the big villain first because that's what everyone knew. So I think Joker you could build up. We've heard rumors of a potential Joker. I don't even know if you need to have it hinted at because again, people may throw that Nolan comparison of like, oh, he just do what Nolan did. And same thing if he does it in the Dark Knight, like if he does in the sequel. But at the end of the day, I always say that I think I won't say any. I'll say majority of people that love Batman have a Batman and Joker story in their mind. So I don't think we get throughout this trilogy. If we got throughout this trilogy without a Joker, I would be shocked. I'd bet my house. I bet everything on that we will see Joker at some point. So I think for this, it's good because I want to see Catwoman set up to be a potential supporting character the whole time. Riddler, he's a guy that he could be locked up. And like we were talking about those rumors of Dark Knight Rises, he could be a guy in the future that Batman goes to for information or something like that, right? Like, but I do think he'll be more or less like one and done as like the main villain. And Penguin, I think, is going to stick around same way as Catwoman, where that could almost be like if there's any comedy in this movie, that could be a running joke that every time Batman needs some information, he shows up at the Iceberg Lounge looking to beat up. It's kind of like Daredevil had that for a while. He had that guy named Turk in the show, and every time he needed information, he just went and beat him up. And he's like, oh no, please, like I don't know nothing this time. That could easily be this Penguin, and maybe one movie he teams up with somebody and it's a bigger deal. So yeah, I'm a fan of all of them.
Okay.
Let's see. I want to hit you with these two because you're talking about you left out two characters as far as people that need to be in these movies, and I feel like Alfred and Gordon are two that also need to be in. I want to ask you, how do you feel? Obviously, we've gotten many versions of Alfred and Gordon now. Gordon, I'd say not so much in the Burden, those four, because he's just a cop. He's just a cop that Batman trusts, and that's about it. But obviously, we had a shame in Justice League, only a few minutes of J.K. Simmons, who would have been a great Gordon. But as far as the Gordon relationship in the Nolan series, that was a big time partnership. And then same thing with Alfred. Alfred's been key in all of these, right? Batflick, Nolan, even the Burden ones, he was always like a guiding light. So how do you feel those relationships could be different like a third or fourth time over? Because that's where I think it does people do worry about the whole like, okay, it's this again, So how can what spin would you like to see this go around?
I don't really want to see a spin, to be honest with you, because people can look at it and be like, "Oh, it's this again," but that is a thing. I mean, we're just speaking Gordon right now. Gordon and Batman's relationship is a big thing, and to me, it does make or break the movie. It really not make or break, but
it's a key element.
It can make or break the movie. Yeah. Having a bad Gordon or a bad Gordon Batman relationship can ruin the movie, whereas having a great one can really make it go forward. Gosh, I don't know why I'm drawing the name of or drawing a blank on the name of who played Gordon in the Nolan trilogy.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. I love, like you said,
Pat Hingle from the Burn ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay job, but man, in the Nolan trilogy, you really felt for this character. You got to see him grow from being the lieutenant to becoming commissioner. You got to see him care. You got to see the story from him knowing Batman for Bruce Wayne from the beginning of Bruce Wayne, the night his parents died, all the way on. That kind of relationship goes through the storyline, the entire movie, the entire trilogy, and I think that really helps out because he has an ally. And the relationship with Jim Gordon and Batman has always been such an important series because without the good relationship with Jim Gordon and Batman, then you get something like White Knight, you know, where Batman Eternal, where this is not right, and all of a sudden Batman and the cops working together is not the right thing anymore because the guy who's the head is not working with Batman. It's a huge part of the story. So I think having this Gordon in there and having a good relationship with Batman is essential and key for this. However, Jeffrey Morgan playing Gordon, I'm not worried at all.
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright. Sorry, I have Jeffrey Wright playing Gordon. Sorry, Jeffrey Wright playing Gordon. Right, yeah. I'm not worried at all, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna. I think he's gonna knock it out of the park.
Yeah, really, I think I'm with you. It's almost like the Batman it's like the James Bond and M sort of relationship where it's like that's just always the same thing or a Q. The only thing, like I said, and I don't think this will be the film to do it. I guess you could because it's year 2. I think the only thing I'd like to see in the future is maybe the way I like, because you just read year 1, when we meet Gordon right away at the start, at first he is not opposed to Batman, but he is almost like hunting him. He is worried that like, what is this thing in my city? So again, with it being year 2, it might not fit. Maybe he's still like an urban legend. I, in one time in the future, would want to, I don't need like Gordon, like I'm going to kill the Bat. I don't want that, but I would love one time for him maybe at the start to be a little more gun heavy, to be like, I don't know if I could trust this guy. I got to bring him in, and then eventually learn like, hey, I can trust this guy. And that is interesting with it being year 2 is that trust going to already be established, or are we going to see that build? That's what I don't know. I think we'll see it established because I think they're going to do a cheat. I think with it being year 1, most people still probably think Batman is not real. They think it's maybe a cop dressed up, or it's a creature. Like, I think it's going to be that even maybe Gordon, he's been around for a year, but still hasn't physically talked to him in a situation yet. So that's the only twist I'd like one day, is to maybe see him kind of headhunting him for a little bit and then realize, oh, I'm in the wrong here. Like, I need to pull back. But if it's not, I same thing like you, Jeffrey Wright, I'm excited. And I think that, again, I don't know if this is going to be, a big theme, but obviously this character, it doesn't matter as far as we talk about race all the time. It doesn't matter that they made him black, but I still think if they wanted to do anything, again, I don't know if they're going to take this route. It depends how realistic, but I still wonder if there's a route to take where what does a black, officer / commissioner do in a city that's riddled with crime in a time, especially we'll see if it's present day, in a time where, black people and white people, as far as the police agency and the police force, are very opposing odds. So I don't know if they will. That's what I mean. That might just be hey, Jeffrey Wright was great and we casted him. But if there was, that's the only other thing I could see being a difference as far as, like I said, with Black Panther. I never thought it was going to go exactly that route. So you never know as far as if they want to hit on anything, because the Nolan movies touched on stuff that was currently happening with, like, in Dark Knight with tapping all the cell phones and whatnot. Like, they touched on current topics, and there's a chance if they did, maybe that's a slight, but maybe it is just, hey, there's a killer with riddles around, and it's just as simple as that, right? So, and I think he's good casting. And with Alfred, I think is the toughest nut to crack, as far as I just want that to be good and just have that old relationship, because I feel that I think I've seen most of the versions of Alfred I've seen in comic books and other media. We've gone the like father-like relationship. We've gone the Byrne ones are just like, this is the guardian and the helper. We've gone the guy in the chair version. We got the fatherly one of Michael Caine, and Jeremy Irons version. And Jeremy Irons did have a fatherly thing, but he was more that Earth one. Like, he's the tech guy. He's probably been through some wars, or he knows a thing or two, right? Like, this Alfred could fight, and that's where I feel like those are almost all the Alfreds we've seen, and there's been other medias as well. So Andy Serkis is a great actor. I think he'll do a good job. I do want to see if they do any spin, or maybe it's just going to be like, leftovers, like, oh, it's still good. It's just like a good relationship building up. But maybe, like you allude those comments, maybe his role is he's really helping him through the trauma. And maybe if you have maybe it's the angel and the devil. Maybe you have Catwoman being like, you should cross this line. And Alfred's role in this movie is to keep telling him, like, you can't do that. If you do that,
yep.
you're not going to come back. So that's maybe what I could see, but I expect it to be good because kind of like what you said with Jeffrey, right? Andy Serkis, phenomenal actor. So I'm expecting whatever he gets, he'll do a really good job with it.
Yeah. Andy Serkis interests me with this role. I don't think that he can't play the role. It's just going to be interesting to see him play this role because the only thing I've seen him do is a lot of mocap, and I've seen him play some crazy people, So I want to see him.
Claw and Black Panther is really out there. Yeah.
Right. So I want to see a more down to earth person, but I feel like he's a good enough actor where you can do that. I mean, I have no doubts he'll do a good job with it. I'm trying to put a finger on my favorite Alfred, but I really don't think that I can because I really do love just about every version of Alfred for different reasons. If I could pick one that I'd want Andy Serkis to lean more towards, it would be more towards like Alfred in Gotham. I want an Alfred that can fight and that can train and that can take care of himself. I don't want Alfred to be somebody that Batman always has to take care of.
Yeah, I'm with you.
In a physical situation. It'd be even cool if Alfred is the guy that's kind of the protector of the house whenever he's not there. I liked that version of Alfred. I thought it was really, really cool. And I hope it's kind of the direction they go. I think they'll go somewhat that direction, because this is going to be younger Alfred, obviously, with being Andy Serkis and Robert Pattinson being a younger Batman. It's going to be a much younger Alfred. So it's interesting to see how it's going to work out.
I'm not going to do the search right now because we're podcasting, but I wonder if you were to look at the actors casted as Alfred, I wonder if he, not counting the Gotham one in the movies, he must be the youngest one, right? You would think like Michael Caine. Jeremy Irons looks great for his age, but he is older. I think he's almost like 70. I think Andy Serkis is just in his 50s. So I think he may be the youngest Alfred we've had on live action. So that's a good point. Didn't even think about that. So, and maybe, again, we've completely like fan cast this because if there's no Robin, lots of our theories are shot. But if there was a Robin down the line and he was a younger Alfred that was put together as far as he could fight, he could train, he could help train Robin as well. You could have that dynamic of Bruce and him training him together instead of just and that's fine if he is just the helpful, like, hey, you got to be careful with this kid. But you could have that where when Batman's out there fighting, it's also Alfred's job to like get this kid ready to take on the mantle or be out there, right? Which I've always kind of liked that idea because, Batman does train Robin in comic books, but it is just like, this man just has a limited amounts of time, like he doesn't sleep much, and that's the point. But it's just like I wouldn't mind that maybe that is the side that we see of him as far as you could even get flashbacks to. I like what you said with Gotham. That's what I kind of imagine because Jeremy Irons is kind of like that, but without the fighting. He has like that tech side and he's very savvy. But I'm with you on that one. I'd like to see that more kind of brawler type of Alfred. That kind of no nonsense given. So. Let's see here. And this will tie into, so I got two more. One is I threw you a curveball. I didn't add him, but it's a very quick yes or no factor fiction. This is one I give you though. What do you want? Because we got Phantom coming up. Like we said, we're going to be covering that. Let's say, hopefully you get it this weekend, but if we don't, what do you want from a first teaser or trailer? What are do you have a list of things that obviously it's going to be about, if it's a teaser, be about a minute, trailer, 2 minutes, but that first look, what are you wanting to see the most?
Oh, you included that. I've got it in my notes. Right.
No, the next one. Oh, the next one. Okay. Yeah. But the next one's very easy. It just, you said something in our conversation like, oh, I want to come back to that. So,
okay. Well, I was looking up the stuff for the movie today. They did 7 weeks of filming.
Yeah. And they got 11 left. Yeah.
And they have 11 left, which means they're roughly halfway done. It's going to take about 9 months after they get done, after they finally finish filming, because they're hoping to start back up in September. They start back up in September. They're going to be finished by the end of the year. Gives them 9 months to October to get all the post-production stuff done. But with 7 weeks already done, they have enough, I think, to give you a 45-second to minute teaser about this. I want to see the Batfleck suit in action. Not Batfleck, excuse me. The Robert Pattinson Batman suit in action.
It's like a scorned lover. He still doesn't give up, Imagine,
I do want to see that next Saturday.
Oh, we're going to get that. Don't worry. Justice League trailer, you're going to see some of that. That would be wild if it was a secret crossover. And it's like, we've been holding this back. Pattinson's actually playing Dick Grayson and Batfleck's training him.
But I want to see Robert Pattinson in the suit in some kind of action. I don't need to see like a full fight scene. Just give me like real quick, kick punch,
take down a guy. Back claw. Yeah.
I'd like to see the Batmobile in motion. Hear what it sounds like one time.
Oh yeah. Sound design is important because all Batmobiles sound differently, which is great.
Yep. And then I want to see each of the villains. They don't have to necessarily be in costume, but I want to see them in motion somehow. If it's Selena Kyle, have her not necessarily have to be Catwoman, because you don't have to reveal the suit right now. Have her in motion. I want to see some film with her moving. I just want to see the characters in motion, see the characters moving. This movie has been announced for so long, and we haven't seen anything about it. Usually by now, we've heard so much stuff about it and seen stuff about it. Trailers been out
because of COVID.
I'm just so anxious to see stuff, but I definitely want to see. I almost said Batfleck suit again. The Batman suit again in motion. I want to see the Batmobile and hear it, and then I want to see the villains at some point in time. Just something real quick, real small.
Yeah. So you're not wrong. I want to see all. I want to see all of that. I think. Because I wonder, because Zoe Kravitz said when she was being interviewed, she said if we were still filming by now, you would have seen something. So I wonder if that is just, she's just talking like you are like, oh, in regular times we would have saw this. Or I do wonder what if those 11 weeks are stuff she has to shoot with the suit and she hasn't shot any with the suit yet, right? So whatever they have shot of her, I would like to see her. I'd love to see the suit, even if on that panel Reeves is like, hey, we didn't get to shoot it, but we really want to show you guys the suit. Here's concept art of it, or here's her like trying it on. Yeah, something like that. But as far as the teaser goes, I want some semblance of what this is tough because they're going to start with a teaser. Movies always do that, right? So it's me asking a lot, but I would want just a minor hint of what is the main conflict? Like, what is Riddler doing? Like, there's been rumors we've heard that apparently there's like an election in this movie and Riddler is killing off politicians and stuff like that. But again, these are all rumors, right? So that could be completely false. But I would like just a snippet of like, I'm with you, want the suit, Batmobile, some action like that. I would like to know just a minor, like, what is the plot? What is Riddler driving towards? Something like that. And then finally, I don't know if we'd get it. They might save it, but I'd love to hear the Bat voice. I'd want to hear what are we getting from Pattinson, right? Because that's the fun thing. Are we getting animatronic Batfleck? I don't think they'll do that because Batfleck just did that. So I think we're going to get a voice, and I think we're going to get a growly voice, and I think it's going to divide people because I love the Affleck voice, but I love the growly voice because like we've talked about before, it's just an iconic thing. But maybe he'll do the Keaton thing as far as like Keaton just made his voice deeper, right? And he was like, he's deeper, quiet, and like, this is the Joker, and this is what when he's Bruce Wayne, he's like kind of talking. I'm just regular. So I like hear the voice. I'm like you with the suit and everything like that. Kind of Riddler's plot. I don't think we'll see the Riddler. I think we're just going to hear him in voice, because if my theory is right that he's kind of in the shadows, like in Seven, like a John Doe, I think they might even hold off. I think there's even a chance that, because if they have Batman and they have Catwoman and Penguin, there's a chance that they may not even have to show Riddler, or they do what they're doing with Cheetah and holding off on Riddler like as long as possible, because if he is just a guy in a suit, there's nothing cool to really show off. So why not just save that? If he doesn't have a costume and they're not worried about leaking, I would say just save the mystique. It's a Batman movie. It's going to sell. Just imagine the whole movie went in and we hadn't seen a photo of Riddler. I think that'd be cool.
What if they do like they kind of pay homage to like Batman Returns, and they have a situation where, like you said, there is a political voting thing going on, and maybe Cobblepot is a guy running like he was in Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And Riddler's not necessarily in this movie, but he's in this movie, and he's the guy behind the scenes pulling the strings and doing all the stuff in the background, and he's going to be a villain to be reckoned with in the future. Like they could.
Or even or even maybe it ends with Batman and him having a confrontation, but Batman doesn't catch him and Riddler gets away, because they have compared. I can't remember. So this is don't put me by my word, because I can't remember if this was writers that said this or rumors, but people had compared the Riddler. If people are saying Batman's like Sherlock Holmes, this was his Moriarty. And if Moriarty is to be like taken as an example, that guy is always not caught. He's always about. So I think there's a chance that maybe he catches Penguin, maybe he catches other villains, but with Riddler, he wins and stops the Riddler from what he's doing, but he doesn't he gets away, right? And I think there's a chance that we could still see him, and maybe that's it too. Maybe because that's the other thing that people keep forgetting is he's not Edward Nygma in this movie. He's Eddie Nashton, which is a name he's gone by in the comic books as an alias. So I'm wondering, what if there's a version of the script where Edward Nygma is the Riddler and that's his real name, but Eddie Nashton is like some guy working at the Wayne Corporation, just like a regular employee, doesn't seem to hurt anybody, but really he is the Riddler pulling all this stuff. And what if it's like a situation where Wayne figures out that Eddie Nashton is Edward Nygma, is the Riddler, and that's where at the end of the movie that's how Batman wins, is he exposes the Riddler's true identity, but he doesn't catch him. So it's like Batman gets a win in the column as far as, oh, you feel good at the end of the movie, but he's still out there. And you could easily do that with the Riddler. And yeah, oh man, I'm excited for another Batman movie. I really am.
What if they did it where the main villain was like a combination of Catwoman and Penguin? Like I said, kind of an homage to Batman Returns. And then at the very end of the movie, Batman defeating Catwoman and Penguin has had Commissioner Gordon gained his trust. And there's a scene at the end where they're on top of the roof, and Commissioner Gordon tells him, "Hey, there's a new guy around making a lot of noise," and he hands him a card. And Batman looks at the card and flips it over, and it's got a little question mark on it. And he says, "I'll look into it." That would be pretty original, right?
Oh yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, I think no one would have a problem with that. That'd be, and poor Paul Dano, he just gets cast for like, oh, you're not in this movie. We just wanted to lock you down 5 years in advance, so no one else did. So, yeah. So hey, anyone else, if you got theories about the film stuff on Twitter, YouTube, everything, let us know. So here's the last one I have. And then I have another one, but it's a very quick one. It's
the
just
last one. Then I have another one.
The last one's just like an overall, but you had said something. I can't remember how I put this in the notes, but I think you had said something about just passing the franchise and whatnot. And obviously, there's been lots of rumors about like what ifs and multiverses. Do we ever see this Pattinson in the Justice League kind of lineup? Because obviously that's been debated for a while, but I just wanted to get your feelings for it right now before fandom, because you never know what could happen, right? Michael Keaton might be back this weekend officially, which would be cool. So if you're today, when we're recording this August 15th, 2020, do you ever see him in a team up movie, or you think it's just his Batman stuff?
I think it's just his Batman stuff, solely in a Batman universe that also coincides with HBO Max's Gotham universe. Now, that with the option of, should this Batman become insanely popular and Robert Pattinson loves playing the role, then maybe down the line they write him into something where he can cross over and be the Batman of the new, because they're going to have a Batman in this new DC universe.
I don't think they do. I know you say that, but old Michael Keaton with a Batgirl, that's what they got right there. I'm telling you, that's I still think
at least a Bat presence. I give you
100%. There's always going to be Bat somebody. As much as some people may not like it, I love it. There'll be a Batman Beyond. There'll be a Nightwing. There'll be somebody affiliated with Bruce Wayne.
But overall, no, I don't think that you ever see Pattinson into anything that's already been out in the DCEU or anything that's going to be in the future DCU. I think this is a totally separate Elseworld story that's going to be self-sustained and probably be pretty damn successful, to be honest with you. I think it is.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think much like X-Men, Batman, we already hear with the show. We've heard rumors of a Catwoman show. Those are from not actual reports, so they're still rumors, but I still think Batman could have its own cinematic universe. I think you could have a Nightwing movie, you could have a Batgirl movie. You wouldn't even need to put them in the DCU. It's the same way of like, obviously not all those movies are great, but X-Men and Fox for a while, they were their own universe. They had Logan, they had First Class, they had all these movies. You could easily do that with this. So my last question is just an overall of, before fandom, just obviously we've talked about, and I know you're a big Batfleck guy, so there's obviously always going to be a little disappointment when you step down, but where is your excitement right now on a scale of 10? As far, again, we're before fandom, we've not seen much. We've talked about almost everything we can for right now. And it was, first of all, I had lots of fun because this was great. You and I, just once we start talking Batman, like we were spinning theories, so I can't wait to do more of these. But where is, on a scale of 10, where's your excitement right now for the Batman?
For the Batman, I actually thought about this earlier. I was like, I need to put his rating on there just in case he asked me what I'm thinking about.
You've been listening long enough that
That's right. I put it at a 7 because I am not insanely excited for this, but I'm also not thinking that it's going to be a failure. There are certain things that I don't necessarily like about it so far, but I don't know much about it. I mean, this could be a suit that grows on me. This could be something that whenever I get the story, it makes sense that the suit's like that. I don't know yet, so I don't want to judge it. I think that it's also because I haven't heard anything about it. I think that it's still so far out. We're still over a year away from this movie coming out. Still haven't seen the first trailer yet, and maybe that's why I'm not as excited for it. I think that if you give me 2 trailers by now, if I knew more news, if I'd seen pictures, if I knew the plot line, I'd be way more into it. And maybe after this weekend, I will. But as of right now, it's about a 7 because it's a Batman movie. Of course, I want to go see it. I'm just not dying to find out more information about it. If something crosses my timeline or you guys tell me something that happens about it, cool. Until the movie gets closer to coming out, I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens.
I've asked you a lot of positive ones, but I'll hit you with this, and I don't even. I'm putting you on the spot, so you don't have to have one. Is there anything we've talked about? Okay, fan, there could be a teaser stuff that could raise your excitement. Is there anything that could come out like the next year that would lower it? Like, obviously, maybe just not the plot you like, but is there anything like big where you go, oh, if they did this, I'm not really into it. You know, like I was like for a while, like with the BVS stuff, for honest, I was like, oh, the killing, that's always going to be, you know, it's going to be a tough thing for me. I still like that movie and I love Ben Affleck as Batman, but that was always like, oh, that when I was going into BVS, when Zack Snyder said something, I was like, oh, he's definitely going that route. So is there something that you worry as far as the lead up that I think you've said this before, that maybe it could get too artsy and like there's no fight scenes or stuff like that? Like, is it kind of something like that you worry?
I don't know, not necessarily. I don't think there's, because I think that even if you have a Batman movie with minimal fight scenes, if you do the other stuff right, the spy stuff right, then it still could be good.
Yeah.
I want more fight scene. I want to have a few good fight scenes in there, but it's not going to make me not want to watch the movie if I hear it's only got like one big fight scene in it. Well, okay, that's okay as long as the story's written well. And leading up to the movie, no, I don't think there's anything that can deter me away from it. I don't think anything can bring me down from here unless I see more pictures of things that I don't like as far as suits and stuff. But even then, I'm still going to give them a chance. So the only thing that can really make me not like this movie is if I get to it and they just do a terrible job with the plot.
More the execution.
Yeah, the execution, which with Matt Reeves and the acting cast and crew they have on here, I don't think that's going to happen. It could, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, so I'm about a 9, and it sounds pretty high. Like I said, I have those reservations of the younger Batman, the Batman in the real world, but I think it's exactly what you just said about it. It's the director and the cast. If I didn't enjoy the cast or director so much, I'd be a bit more okay. Not that it's another Batman movie, I'll always be excited, but Robert Pattinson, I'm a big fan of. I'm very invested in. And it's funny because I was a big fan, like when Ben Affleck got cast. You can go back in GV. I was a fan of that, and I was a fan of this because I think the reason I'm a fan of Pattinson is because he reminds me a lot of younger Bale, and I'm a big Bale guy. So just like his trajectory of his career, it's different, but the roles he picks, I just know he could bring it, and I just feel like he's going to give us a really good Batman. I'm not going to say the best, but I think there's a possibility for him to be in that discussion. Matt Reeves, I love those Planet of the Apes movies, and so I trust him a lot. And I think it's only up from here. But honestly, I think when you ask me opening night, I'm gonna be a full on 10. Once we get the trailers, and I'm saying, I think we'll all be that. But I think I'll always be a 9 because I need to see, and unless the trailers show me this, I need to see the execution of, like I said, a year 2 and the fantastical stuff. I think that's kind of like the bat flick killing stuff where I'm just probably gonna have to get over as far as, okay, it's another realistic Batman. I like Batman being realistic. I just wanted a little bit different after we just had Nolan's, which was a trilogy of that. So, but either way, I'm excited. I'm very excited for Fandom to be watching all this stuff with you guys. It's going to be, oh man, we're going to be watching this live. We're going to be sitting back. I just can't wait. Like,
fun. Yeah.
I can't wait for us to all live react. I can't wait to talk with the fans. And it's going to be a whole day of overload. And, like I was joking about that with Chris, because Chris goes, well, it's Batman. Of course he is. But, and he's that main event. They gave him that last slot, right? The whole night's building up to him. So, but that's the reverse of like, whatever they show, they can't disappoint. They can't be like, oh, well, that panel sucked or that teaser sucked. Like if DC comes to Matt Reeves, because they easily could have went with Suicide Squad, which is more finished. They could have went with the Snyder Cut, which is like has a big following. If they say, hey, you're closing off the first night of Fandom, which the second night, if people don't know, it's just an encore of the first night. So I know they're saying, oh, it's 2 days, but it's not. It's just like the same panel. So if you're closing off the first night, 1, I do think they believe them, but 2, they got to bring it because they are, like Chris said, when it is Batman, you are the main event, but you also, with that comes, you've seen that with Batman. People are very protective over that character, right? So that comes with tons of responsibility. Characters like Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, I'm not saying they're most popular as far as you got Wonder Woman and Iron Man, but those characters, people are very protective of those characters. They have their versions, and I've been guilty of it before where it's like, this is just my Batman, that's it. But when you grow older, you go, no, okay, there is all these different versions, but you're look at Ben Affleck doing all those interviews. He said that was tough, that every interview for a different movie he's gonna ask, what about Batman, what about Batman? So it's like this is gonna be, obviously once they get back to filming, but this is gonna be, if there is a teaser or something, this is the start of you think they're under a microscope now, it hasn't even started, it hasn't even begun. It's like there's gonna be picks apart, there's gonna be breakdowns. So yeah, I just can't wait for Fandom. So I hope everyone that listened to this really enjoyed it. I had a hell of a good time talking about this. I love talking about Batman, and I love that, like, the first episode was good, but that was just like, that was the introduction, that was the foreplay. Now we're diving into, and next month's going to be even bigger because we're getting into the killing thing. But anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, man. You know, it's funny. Whenever you send me the talking points for these shows, and I'll start writing down, I'll start taking notes on the tough stuff I want to talk about. And I walked into this show, and I was like, man, I don't have many notes for any of these. I have like 2 or 3 notes for every little talking point you had. I don't know how I'm gonna how we're gonna like have conversation or have content. And then we just start talking Batman, and the next thing I know, we're on like the third tangent of one subject.
Yeah.
One subject I thought we were going to talk about for 2 or 3 minutes. We've been talking about for 15 or 20 minutes. So it's always out there with Batman. It's great to be talking with a Batman fan. Thank you so much. It's a really good time doing this.
Yeah, where can they find you? Obviously, we talked about that before, but just in case anybody doesn't know, where can they find you on Twitter and the other shows you're doing?
Twitter, my personal handles at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter. Talk to me about just about anything. DC Alliance podcast, I do with my boy Travis Hines. That drops on Tuesday mornings. I have superhero discussions with him on Friday mornings. I do Super Civil Servants podcast Friday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. That's a live show, so you can come check us out, be on the chat room, be part of the show, ask us questions while we go. And then usually audio drops the next Tuesday or Monday, but it may start dropping earlier than I'm not sure. And then C3 Panthers podcast on Tuesday, also on YouTube, live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Times, where you hear geeks talk football. So,
well, yeah, because we're at the end of an hour and 40 cast. You know, Greg loves the hint. I'll pull some thunder that, you know, one of those shows, probably not the football one, might be joining some network. You know,
right.
Maybe one day. That's my goal. I've always said hopefully, you know, it's a little tease, but one day I want video game content on there. I want wrestling. You never know what could happen. But yeah, follow Greg for all that updates and whatnot. And there could be some, you know, Fandome has announcements. We may have some announcements coming up here too. So it's been a good time. You guys know where to find me. All Greg's information will be down below in the links when this goes live. But me, Travis B. Snail, you know, it is the Geek for Channel. You know, I'm popping off somewhere, and we got tons of content. So thank you very much for tuning in. When you hear from us next, it'll not be boring. Take care.
Keep pounding.